Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you how to stream music from Parse.com with Swift and Xcode. Now because Swift is kind of new, there's a lot of things that aren't shared publicly with everyone, and this is one of them. I've been trying to figure out for the longest time how to put object IDs into an array via Parse.com automatically. I solved that problem, and now we're going to do this tutorial that, although it might not be simple in programming, after you're done programming, it is the simplest way to create an audio library with Swift and Xcode. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is what we're going to accomplish in this tutorial. I have my own MP3 files, and I just put them inside of Parse, inside of my own class. And then inside of the app itself, I can click on song 1. And it can play, and then I can pause and play. And then we can easily add more songs on later. So let's go ahead and get started. Just as a note, Parse.com can only take files that are 10 megabytes or lower. Alright, first thing we need to do is open up Safari or whatever web browser you use, and we're going to head over to Parse.com. Now if you haven't created an account with them already, you probably should if you want to do this tutorial. Then we need to just go over to here. If you created an account, you should see something in the top right corner that says go to your apps. So I'm going to head over to my apps, and then I'm going to create a new app. Now it's asking what I want to name it, so let's go ahead and call this Media Library and create. And now let's go to Core, and this is where you will store all your songs. Let's go add class, and we'll just call this class our songs class because this is where all the songs will be stored. Create class, head over to our songs class, and we're going to create a new column. So just click right up here where it says plus COL, and we're going to select a type of a file. Now we'll make the column name song file. So this will be the song file that we are trying to access. Create column, and then we're also going to add a new class. I'm sorry, not a new class. We're going to add another column, and this is going to be a string, and this will be our song name. Create. And now as you can see, we have our song file right here and our song name right there. Let's go ahead and move those together so we can keep things a little bit more organized. Now down here, we want to actually add some songs into this file. So let's go add a new row. And inside of this row, we're going to create a name. So this first song name, I'll just call this song 1. And when you hit enter, a new object ID is created, and this will be randomized for every object that you have. And then it says created at this time, updated at this time, and it is a public read and write. Now we want to actually add a song file into it, and as I stated before, you don't want song files to be greater than 10 megabytes because they don't accept that in Parse. So let's head over to Finder, and we're going to go to Desktop. This is where I have my media stored. And right down here I have songs. Now I have 3 songs that I want to add, and you can right click on a song and say get info. And you can see that it is below 10 megabytes. It's 1.4 megabytes, so I got plenty of space. So let's head back over to Parse, and right underneath song file, you'll see this is undefined. So go ahead and double click on that, and it should say upload file. Now that this is done, let's go ahead and click and drag a file that we want to add, and there you have it. We have all good things come.mp3. Now click choose, and it doesn't look like anything's happening, but something is happening. It is uploading it to Parse right now. And as you can see, we have successfully updated object, and we have our song file inside of the song file. Now let's go ahead and add a new row, and we'll call this song name song 2. And again, it creates a random object ID, and the song file we are going to add is, so let's click on here and upload file. And the song file we are going to add this time is just another song I have. Click choose. And lastly, we will add one more row, and this will be our third song. So just go over to our song name. We'll call this song 3. Of course, you can give it a better name if you want. These will actually be the names that are shown to the people. So you want to make sure that your song name sounds good. Now go over here to your song file, and we are going to click on that and click and drag our third file inside of there. And there you have it. It is now uploading that file. Now after a few minutes of waiting for that to upload, you can see that if I right click on our file right here, we say get info, you can see that it is a 10 megabyte audio file. So that's why it took so long. Now let's head over to the docs inside of Parse.com, and we want to say launch the quick start. So we're going to add a quick start. We're going to say data, mobile, iOS, Swift, and existing project. So we're going to download the SDK. And now that this is downloading, let's open up Xcode and create a new Xcode project. Let's go over to our applications. We're going to say this is a single view application. Click Next. And our product name, I will just call mine Media Library. Language will be set to Swift and devices will be set to iPhone. Click Next and create. Now let's make this a bit bigger. Head over to our main.storyboard, and first thing we need to do is just delete this view controller that's already on there, and we want this to be a table view controller. Now with this table view controller, we want to say is the initial view controller over here in our attributes inspector, and we also want to go over to our view controller.swift file, and we're going to change the class of this to table view controller, and then this is going to be of the superclass of a UI table view controller. So now this is going to allow us to edit this view controller that we just added right here inside of this file. Now if we were to make this a bit smaller, and then we can head over to our downloads, double click on our Parse library -1.6, you should see this is the Parse library that is going to allow us to connect with those files that we connected inside of Parse. So now let's go over here to our media library again, and we are going to click and drag this whole framework inside of our supporting files. Click Finish. It doesn't need to be in your supporting files, but I'm just putting them there. And we can make this a bit bigger, and we can head over to our media library, go over to our build phases right over here, and we're going to link binary with libraries. As you can see, it was already linked with all the libraries for Parse that we need. So just basically, we actually want to import all of these frameworks that you see right down here. And this is going to allow every file that's inside of these Parse frameworks to work properly. So now we need to go back and forth and just import all these frameworks that you see. So this will be our audio toolbox.framework. Then we can go back and do cfnetwork.framework. I'm going to come back after doing all of this. Now with these last two, we have libs.dlib, so let's go ahead and import those, libz.daylib. Then we also have our libsqlite, so this will be libsqlite 3 without the 0. Import those, and now we have all of our libraries inside of here. So now this is going to allow all the files that are inside of these libraries. As you can see, if we were to head in here, these have their own libraries, and this is going to allow those to work. So now let's clean things up a bit. Down here in our audio toolbox framework, just click that and then hold shift and click on our libsqlite. Right click, and we're going to say new group from selection, and this will be our frameworks. So these are all the frameworks that we are using, and we can also put these frameworks down here, which are Parse frameworks, inside of our frameworks as well, inside of our frameworks folder. And there you have it. Now it's a bit cleaner and we can work with things a bit better. Now we need to head over to our appdelegate.swift, and inside of our appdelegate.swift, we're going to say did finish launching with options. We need to go back here to our documents. And inside of our documents, we want to launch the quick start again, go to data, mobile, iOS, Swift, existing project. And down here, you want to add your Parse application ID. Make sure it's the right app that you're trying to edit, or else it will not work. Go down here, and we're going to say Parse enable load data store. We're going to just copy and paste all of this into our did finish launching with options. So let's go ahead, put those right in there. We need to also go down here, and we're going to say import Parse. And we also need to import bolts, which is just another framework that they created for us. Now let's head back over to our viewcontroller.swift, and we're going to import Parse. So import Parse. We're going to import our AV foundation. This is going to allow us to play these audio files. And we also need import the AV kit. Now inside of this class where it says table view controller, right after our UI table view controller superclass, we also want to add the superclass of an AV audio player delegate. So this is basically saying this view controller will control the way we play audio. Now let's go down here, and we're going to say public variable. So this variable is actually going to allow us to edit the song we are playing from other view controllers. So we're going to say public variable audio player will be equal to our AV player open parentheses, close parentheses. Then we're also going to create another public variable, and this will be our selected song number. And this will be equal to an integer, open parentheses, close parentheses. Now this selected song number is basically going to be used, so when you click on a certain cell of your table view controller, it's going to be able to change the song. And then if you are in another view controller and you click like next, and then it can change the selected song number and play a different song. Now down here in our view did load, first thing we need to do is actually query our object IDs. This took me forever to learn actually how to do. So we need to say var object ID query will be equal to our pf query, open parentheses, and this is going to be a class name. And this class name will be equal to, if we go back to our core in Parse, we can see inside of our media library that we have our songs right here. This is the class that we are trying to access. So we can go back here, and we're going to say var object ID equals pf query class name, and this will be equal to songs. Be sure it's capitalized properly or else it will not work. Now down here we also want to say object ID query dot find objects in background with block. Now this block, we're going to just say open curly bracket, close curly bracket. And inside of these curly brackets, we're going to do open parentheses, close parentheses. And what do we want to do with these objects? Well, we want to store them into an array of objects. So say objects, we can say objects array, colon, open bracket, close bracket, any object, question mark, and then comma, error, colon, ns error, question mark. Now basically what this is saying, we're going to find the objects in the background, and then we're going to apply these objects into here, and if there is an error, we will know about this error via the find objects in background with block. It's a function that you can call. Then after this, you want to do an arrow, so dash alligator tip void in. Now if you didn't type it in correctly, it needs to be this exact way, or else it will not work properly. There needs to be a question mark, there needs to be a question mark after the NS error. If there needs to be everything that you see right here, or else it will not work properly. Now we need to go down here and say var, and this will be an array for our object IDs. So we need to say var object IDs will be equal to objects array as a pf object. And this should actually be an array of pf objects, so just put square brackets right around it. And basically what this is saying, we're creating a new variable, and this is actually created so it's any object. Now we're saying, okay, we're foregoing that this is going to be a pf object that is inside of these object arrays. And this is going to allow us to grab certain elements from there. So for instance, we can grab our object ID and then plug that into an array that we need. So now we need to go down here and say for I in 0 objects object IDs dot count, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then up here and inside of our table view controller, we needed to go right above our view did load, and we're going to create a variable. So this variable is going to be an array of strings. So we need to say var ID array will be equal to an array of strings. So put brackets all around them, and then add open parentheses, close parentheses after that. Then down here we also want to create a name array. So these will be storing up the object IDs and the song names inside of these arrays that we are creating right now. So this will be our var name array will be equal to an array of strings again, open parentheses, close parentheses after that. Now down here inside of our for I in 0 objects ID dot count, we also need to say self dot ID array dot append, and basically this is saying we want to add a new element inside of this array. And what are we going to add? We are going to add our object IDs for the value of I. So basically as this is going through or circulating through the number of object IDs, we want to say object IDs for the I value dot value for key, and this is going to be the object ID. And we're going to make sure that this is a string, so say as exclamation point string. So we are appending a string inside of our ID array. Now if you actually want to see how this is done, let's go over here to our for I and 0 dot dot dot, so on and so forth. Let's go down here and we're going to say nslog, open parentheses, close parentheses, and inside of these parentheses we want to do open quotation mark, close quotation mark, slash, open parentheses, close parentheses, and inside of this we can actually see what's coming up inside of this object's IDs array. So we can put down here, we're going to just type in object IDs like so. And this is going to show us what exactly are we grabbing from. And I just realized that we never actually hooked this viewController.swift up to our table view. So let's go over to our table view inside of our main.storyboard, click on the class, and we are going to just type in table view controller, or basically the name that we typed in right up here with our class. Now if we were to build and run this, the table view controller is going to load, and it's going to give us an nslog of exactly what we're trying to look at. Now as you can see, it did find a nil value. I'll fix this in just a second. We're just going to focus on this part right here. So right up here you'll see the inside of these arrays that we have right here, we have our song file and our song name. And as we filter through this for I in 0, we're going to add our song file into our ID array right up here. And then we're going to add the next one into our ID array, and then the next one after that. So we're basically just taking all the object IDs and storing them into a local database. Now we need to say for I in 0 dot 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 object IDs dot count -1. And this D right here should actually be a lowercase d for ID. Let's build and run this again. And now you don't see anything, but we're not getting any errors, so that's perfectly fine with me. And now we need to add the corresponding names into our name array right up here. So now we need to say self.nameArray.append. So we are going to add new elements. And basically we can actually just copy and paste this right inside of here. Except we want to change the value for key equal to, if we were to bring this up again, this is going to be our song to name right up here. So we could say song name. So now we stored our song names into our name array right up here. Now let's go down here. We're going to add a new function, and this will be our grab song function. So just type in func, grab song, open parentheses, close parentheses, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. And now what this is basically doing, when we select a certain part out of the table view, we want to grab a certain song. So what song is that? We want to first say var song query will be equal to a pf query for the class name of our string, which will just be songs again. So we're basically grabbing from the class that we had right up here. If we were to go to core, and you can see inside over here we have our songs class again. And now let's go back over here to our grab song function, and we want to say, for the grab song, we want to say song query dot get object in background with ID. What ID do we want? Well, we want to take from our ID array for a selected number. So first let's go up here to our selected number. And as you can remember, we had our public variable created for selected song number. So now we need to say song query dot get object in background ID array. This will be our selected song number integer. So we're basically taking the first object or the second object out of this ID array, depending on which table view cell we select. Now this should actually say with block, so let's go back here. We're going to say ID, and then this is going to be object ID string block pf object result block. Now inside of our object ID, again, we want this to be ID array for the selected number, song number. And our block will be equal to an open curly bracket, enter close curly bracket. And inside of these, what exactly do we want to happen? We will want to store our object inside of a pf object. So we need to say open parentheses, close parentheses, object, colon, and this will be a pf object, question mark, comma, error. So if there's an error, we also want to make sure and check if that happens. So ns error, question mark. And then after that, you go dash alligator tip void void in. And now down here, basically this is saying we created an object, we found this object in background with our ID array, selected song number. We basically grabbed an object out of that, and now we want to take all these objects that we grabbed and put them inside of our audio player. So now we say if let audio file URL temporary, we'll just call it that, equals object dot object for key. It's going to add a question mark right after the object for you. That's basically saying it's an optional. If there's anything inside of this that's not true, then forget it. Dot object for key, and the key will be our song file. And this will be dot URL with the lowercase URL. Now after this, go open parentheses, close parentheses. So basically what we're asking is if this is equal to a song file, so if this is true, what do we want to do? Well, we want to say audio player. As you can see, we created up here in this public variables. We want to say audio player will be equal to AV player for a URL. And what is our URL going to be? It's going to be NSURL, open parentheses. This is going to be a string, so let's type in string. And our string will be equal to an audio file URL temp. So we are setting this string equal to the song file URL, and then we're going to load this inside of our AV player. And then after this we say audio player dot play. Now how do we actually grab these songs? So in order for us to do this, we need to say table view, and this will be did select row at index path. We don't want to do anything with that just yet. We need to actually create our table view before we select. So we need to say table view, cell for row at index path. We want to create a cell for every row that is inside of our table view. Now down here inside of our code, we say var cell will be equal to table view dot dequeue reusable cell with identifier, and this is going to be the identifier of capital C cell, basically whatever you want to call it really. Then after this we want to say return cell, and right after this part right here where it says var cell, we want to say as a UI table view cell. So we are setting this table view reusable cell with identifier cell. So if we go back to our main.storyboard right now, we can head over to our table view, click on the cell specifically, head over to our attributes inspector. We're going to set the identifier equal to capital cell, like so. So now we have this identifier, and we are grabbing this cell, and we're going to change this cell depending on how many cells there are. Now let's go back over to our viewcontroller.swift file, and right down here inside of our table view cell for row at index path, we want to say cell.textLabel.text will be equal to our name array for the index path dot row. Now if you're wondering where I'm getting this index path dot row, it's basically created right up here, and it's basically where you create each of the cells for every row. Now lastly, we need to create how many cells are there going to be. So we're going to say table view, and this will be number of rows in section, and we're going to return a value, as if you can see right up here, it's expecting a return value of integer. So we need to say return. We will return our ID array dot count. So we're counting how many IDs there are, and we're setting up our cells accordingly. Now if we were to build and run this right now, you will see that there's nothing inside of this table view right now. Now in order for us to do this, let's go over here to our object ID query, and right after this part where it says where you're pending all the objects inside of your arrays, we need to say self.tableview.reload because it basically loaded the data from the start, and it didn't have enough time to grab all of the object IDs. Now if we were to build and run this, now we have song 1, song 2, and song 3. Now if you were to click on this, nothing happens at the moment, so let's go ahead and make things happen. And this will be table view did select row at index path. What do we want to happen? Well, we want to set our selected song number equal to our index path dot row. So whatever row we select is going to be our selected song number, and then we need to grab our song. So just type in grab song, like so. Now if we were to build and run, So now if we were to build and run, we can select on all of these songs and they will be able to play. So we can click on song 3. And you can hear that in the background that it is now playing. We can click on song 2 and it will override song 3, so we're not getting any overlapping. Then we also have song 1. And they are all matching. So now let's go ahead, click the stop button. Now let's head back over to our main.storyboard, and inside of our main.storyboard we want something cooler to happen. When we click on these cells, we actually want a command list to happen down below. So I'm just going to add pause and play in this video, but it's cool nonetheless. Now let's go ahead, click and drag a view controller into our scene like so. And then we can click and drag a container view inside of this scene that we have right here. So right click or control click and drag from this container view over to our view. And this will be our leading space, trailing space, top space, center horizontally, and center vertically. Hit enter, and now we have all these constraints going on, and they should be all highlighted blue. If they're not, check and make sure that you selected all the ones that are proper. Now just right click or control click and drag from this container view right over here. And we want to embed. So we are embedding our table view, or the song list basically, into this container view. And this is going to allow us to also have a pause and play button right nearby. Now as you can see, this arrow right here, this is basically saying is the initial view controller. We actually want to change this over to our view controller right over here. Now alongside with this container view was created a view controller right over here, so we can just delete that view controller. And now we also want to create a new file, so just say file, new file, and this file will be a Swift file, and we're going to make this our main view controller create. So our main view controller.swift, we're going to create a class. Our class name will just be main view controller of the superclass of a UI view controller. And right now it's giving me an error because there's no such thing, because we haven't imported our UI kit yet. So say import UI kit. And this is going to allow us to use the main.storyboard. Now down here we want to see view did load. When the view loads, nothing's going to happen, but it's just something there that I like having in there just in case. Now let's head back over to our main.storyboard. Click on this view controller that has the container view in it. And we want to go over to our identity inspector. We want to set the class equal to our main view controller, or basically we want to set this equal to the Swift file that we created. Now inside of our main view controller, we want to hit Command S just to save our file, and this is going to allow us to edit from our main.storyboard. Open up your assistant editor. So the file didn't open up automatically for me, so go over here to your manual, and down here it should be in your automatics. Click on automatic. And now let's click and drag another button on there, and this will be our pause button, and then we'll have a play button right after that. So right over here, we're going to add these two buttons. We're going to add this one as our pause button. Click and drag these buttons to be up here. This first one will make this pause, and our second one we will make this play. And now let's right click or control click and drag from our pause button, and we're going to set the action to this, and we're going to just say pause. This will be our pause action. And then our play button, we want to right click or control click and drag from that, and we want to set an action equal to play. Connect. And now inside of here, because we made our audio player public, we're going to be able to edit our audio player from a different file. So we can say audio player.pause, then we can say audio player.play. Now we need to add some constraints to these pause and play buttons. So right click or control click and drag from our pause button. We're going to say vertical spacing. We're going to do the same for our play button. We're going to add some spacing between these buttons right here, horizontal spacing. And then we're going to right click or control click and drag from this pause button, and we're going to say center the X value. And that will allow us these pause and play buttons to actually be right here in the center of our container view. So now if we were to build and run this, you will see that we have pause and play. Now hit our song 1. And now we can click on pause and play. Song 2, pause, play. Pause, play. Song 3. And of course, if you want to add another song, we just need to create a new row. We need to set the song name equal to song 4. And we also want to take and click and drag. And we also want to go to our song files, go to upload file, and we're going to click and drag a new song file inside of there. Click choose. And now it's uploading the song file inside of our Parse, inside of Parse. And now that that's imported, we can head back over to our media library, click play, and everything will automatically be updated. So now we have song 1, song 2, song 3, and song 4. Click on song 4. And there you have our new song. Thank you all so much for watching this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more tutorials like this from me in the future, be sure to subscribe. This tutorial took a long time to make, and it took a lot of effort on my part to actually figure out how everything was done. I'm glad I finally figured it out for all of you, and also myself. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.